Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us on episode 72 of Health Talk with Dr. Kell. I'm Nikki Sterner, and today we're in part 3 of a series that dives into why can't I lose weight? What's my body type? In part 1, podcast 70, we discussed the 3 different body types: ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. In part 2, podcast 71, we discussed how to determine which body type you are and how to train and eat for your body type. This week, we're going to discuss body types according to the 4 organ systems of the body. The adrenal body type is the most common, and it has a sagging belly, buffalo hump on the back, and a rounded face. Excess cortisol is the cause of most of the issues. The thyroid body type gains weight all over, has hair loss and loose skin, outside eyebrows falling out, dry skin, and they crave alcohol, bread, pancakes, and waffles. Too much estrogen, heavy periods, the environment, or a lack of digestive gallbladder release may be the culprits. Welcome, everybody, to Health Talk with Dr. Kell. I'm Nikki Sterner, and today we are on podcast number 72. Why can't I lose weight? What's my body type? Part 3. Welcome, Dr. Kell.
Thanks, Nikki. Hi, everybody.
This has been a cool series. I'm excited to jump into this last part. Or I don't know if it's the last part or not, actually.
Yeah, it's been a good one. Well, we're gonna continue on for several podcasts about why can't I lose weight. Such a huge topic. We'll do several.
Yes. Before we do that, let's get into the quotes. And the first one is, we've been keeping it light and kind of funny. So, yesterday I wore something from 5 years ago and it actually fit. So proud of myself. It was a scarf, but still, let's be positive here. Okay.
Good one.
And the next one is, your diet is a bank account. Good food choices are good investments. Oh, that's by Bethany Frankel. That's funny. I didn't know that was by her.
I like that.
Yeah.
And you are an investment, right? I mean,
You are.
People don't think about it that way. Fast food. Everybody thinks it's cheap, but it really isn't. It's quite expensive. When it trashes your body, it can become very expensive. Medical bills are huge, and even if you've got health insurance, ridiculous copays and deductibles and all that stuff. You keep yourself healthy, eat right, and do all the right stuff, exercise, etc. It's all an investment in long-term life and good health.
That's true. That's totally true. So, okay, I'm excited to get into today's stuff.
All right.
You were telling me a little bit about it last week.
Well, can you do a recap on the first 2 for us real quick, and then we'll get into part 3?
Okay, so we talked about ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph for body shapes and body types. So the ectomorph is like the slender, thin, fast metabolism, less muscle and fat. For ectomorphs, we talked about like how to train and eat for that body type. So they eat, ectomorph is, they can have high quality carbs, healthy fats and proteins, nutrient dense. They can do more endurance cardio. You can add hills and incline. You can strength train 3 times a week is good for that to help build muscle because they don't naturally have a lot of muscle. And then the next type was mesomorph, which is athletic, squared shoulders. They gain muscle easily. They have an efficient metabolism. And then mesomorph for diet, it's more moderate, healthy carbs, good fats and protein, kind of a balanced diet. For repair, the protein is for repairing their muscles because they build muscle easily. If you do like 40% carb, 30% protein, 30% fat, that's kind of like the zone diet is typical for them. It's good. Moderate endurance and high intensity interval training, medium weights, Pilates and yoga is good for them. Lighter weights, more reps. And then the third type is endomorph, which is considered shapely. They gain body fat more easily. They have medium to large joints, a lower metabolism. And for the endomorphs, for training and eating, they do well with a low carb, nutrient dense diet. Cardio exercise, high intensity exercise is better for them. They do well if they increase their activity even while they're not exercising. So walking around or that sort of thing. Moderate activity is very helpful and beneficial. What I thought was interesting when you talked about how to determine what body type you are. One of the things was if you go on vacation and you don't gain any weight at all, you're more likely an ectomorph, which is the thin, thin type. If you go on vacation and you gain a little bit of weight and then you lose those few pounds quickly when you get back, you're more the mesomorph, which is like the athletic, gain muscle, efficient metabolism person. If you're an endomorph, you struggle to lose the weight. If you go on vacation, you gain weight, and then it's hard to lose those few pounds. So I thought that was really interesting.
And what do you tend to do on vacation that you don't normally do?
Eat more.
Eat more and eat more junk.
Eat more junk. Yeah, because you don't have your healthy foods, or it's harder to find those healthy.
Always eating out, going to the fast food restaurants, etc. Right?
Right. So that's my notes from what I got. My main things, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, that's a good breakdown. That's a good overview. Go back though, and everybody check those previous podcasts out, number 70 and 71. It'll give you a whole lot more detail, but that was a good breakdown to lead us into what we're talking about now. And what that is, again, continuing on the body type information, but we're taking it a little more in depth. There's a chiropractor by the name of Dr. Berg who also has a YouTube channel and talks a lot about dieting. He's kind of into the keto diets, though I like his explanation here that we're going to get into about body types and things you can do for those body types. Not big on the keto diet. It's high fat. Adding a lot of fat to your diet and doing things like that long term don't agree with. But anyway, I do like the way he analyzes things, and you can go in and find him and listen to him as well. You'll find a lot of good stuff there. But I don't recommend anybody go on extreme diets. I suppose, like we talked about, the endomorph tends to lose a lot of weight faster when they're doing either a high protein, low carb diet or a high fat or keto type low carb diet. You can drop pounds much quicker, but to stay on those diets long term can be very detrimental to your system. Anyway, going into this, we talked about the ectomorph being the skinny person, the mesomorph being the more typically a well-rounded type person physically, and the endomorph being the one tends to be overweight easily and have a harder time losing weight. Well, he goes into actually organ systems of the body and how those organ systems, they affect hormone function and all that, actually categorize people into ways that they can better help themselves with improving their overall health, as well as figuring out if one organ, such as the adrenal glands, isn't functioning well, you may tend to store fat in one part of your body instead of another. A thyroid person will tend to store fat differently than an adrenal type body, or an ovarian or a liver dysfunction type body. So we'll get more into that. Very interesting stuff. We'll talk first about the adrenal body type. Okay, I'm just going to read some of the stuff here that he mentions that I find interesting, and then go ahead, Nikki, at the end, comment in any way you'd like to. See, this is the most common. So an adrenal type body is considered the most common, according to Dr. Berg. Has a sagging belly and might have a buffalo hump on their back, that hump that kind of develops on the back, and a rounded face. They think they need to do more sit-ups, but millions of sit-ups won't get rid of the belly because it is a hormone that is causing it, called cortisol. And we're going to cover cortisol here in future podcasts coming up after this, but so stay tuned for the cortisol information, and it's called 10 Ways to Lower Your Cortisol Levels. So cortisol comes from the adrenal glands, and that's where you take on the cortisol and you tend to store that fat around your belly. Cortisol does benefit us in many ways. There's a reason we store fat. If you want to look at it, I'm not so big on evolution, but if you think about the way the world has worked, I think man has progressed over the years. So if there was a time in history where man was living off the land before all the modern ways of live we do, and in smaller groups and communities, maybe ate sporadically. It was important in those days, if you went for times of fasting where you went for days without eating or had to forage for food, storing like the chipmunk or squirrel that stores nuts, or the bear, that maybe bear, a better example, where he eats they eat a whole bunch of food all summer long and store enough fat to where they can survive the winter without eating. and slowly live off the fat that's on their body. So cortisol does have some benefits. But anyway, he says here, cortisol, a destructive hormone, is eating up the protein in the legs and the butt and putting it into the stomach as fat. So he's claiming part of the science behind cortisol, excessive amounts of cortisol, actually cause the depletion of protein, and then the body transforms that protein and stores it in the form of fat in your belly, and that conclusion or that science also, the studies have been done to show that's true. Think about it. You see a person with really big sagging fat around their belly, they tend to have thinner legs and a flatter butt. See, this type should not be exercising because they are in stress mode. So interesting to know that that type of a person needs to limit their exercise, at least initially, until they get their adrenal glands functioning properly. So, and a person who, if you can look at one of those people and tell, and this is my observation, not Dr. Berg's, though he may discuss this in other literature that he has, is that person's a stressed out person. Whether you can see it outwardly that they're stressed out, the simple fact that their body is in overload mode with their adrenal glands means that they're stressed. They're really stressed out. I want you to take your hands, and we've done this with you before, rub your hands along the sides of your upper thigh, on the outside of your upper thigh. Does it hurt if you push in and rub on your leg as you go up? Does it hurt? That's a sign that your adrenal glands may not be fully functioning as well as they could be. And a person who has the adrenal body type will be very sore there. And one of the supplements that I know you take consistently, and I take as well, because it's just great to take because it's healthy and good for the adrenal glands, but that's one of the things we almost always put people on if they've got adrenal dysfunction, and that's called Drenamin from Standard Process.
Yeah.
And we always really talk up the Standard Process supplements because they're all whole food supplements. They're organic. They grow all their own foods and process them that way. They get all the different good stuff from around the world and from very healthy places, and nothing synthetic about them. So Drenamin is one of those things that, once again, we don't suggest if you see yourself as an adrenal body type, don't just go start taking Drenamin. First get an evaluation to cover what you really need, because there are other advanced stuff from Standard Process that besides Drenamin that some people come in and they're just in terrible shape and they need more than that. So
more specific.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say more specific supplements.
More specific things in a combination of supplements to help them. And I still, from my perspective, light exercise is good for anybody, no matter what. An adrenal body type person, I would still tell to get out and walk. Get out and walk, because you want that blood moving through your body. You want everything. It just keeps us healthier. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see. Adrenal body type will crave chocolate, salt, and crunchy, cheesy things. They will have sinus problems and allergies. They can't absorb calcium, so they get tight calves and tight shoulders. Okay. Very good.
Wait, say that again. Okay. They crave chocolate.
The adrenal body type will crave chocolate, salt, and crunchy, cheesy things. They will have sinus problems and allergies. They can't absorb calcium, so they get tight calves and tight shoulders. So
can't absorb calcium?
Yeah, they have difficulty absorbing calcium.
So they have tight calves and shoulders?
Yeah, which would tell me their gut flora is way off. They got gut problems along with the adrenal problems. So they need to fix the gut, probably suffering from leaky gut syndrome as well, probably have bowel issues along with all that, and maybe irritable bowel syndrome is tied to that. The problem with absorbing calcium is their gut flora problems, etc. So they tend, because they're low in calcium, they tend to be prone to calf and thigh cramps, as well as tight shoulders. Shoulders are always hurtful and painful. So I'm guessing, and if I don't remember right, when you came into us, you had some of those issues going on too. Maybe not to the
Yep.
extreme of others. It's not like you ever had an adrenal belly, but you had some of
No.
the other symptoms to say maybe your cortisol levels were above normal, and maybe they still tend to be so. You were exposed to mold and other things throughout your life, and have done probably some damage that you just need to keep
Yeah.
aware and watchful for the rest of your life because of those kinds of things,
Yep.
right?
You're,
Okay,
yep.
here he talks about where does the calcium go? The calcium goes on top of the knees as arthritis or fibromyalgia, which is pain all over. Adrenal body types have old injuries that are stiff. Their flexibility and posture go down. What I recommend is getting sleep and do not go on a low protein diet. Eat a little protein with each meal. They should also add foods with potassium to get the adrenals recharged. So, increase your potassium levels. There's where we're going beyond the ecto, meso, and endomorph here and getting more detailed into direct issues that different organs in your body dysfunction. So, that adrenal type is, as far as getting their adrenal glands working and functioning better. And as they do that, they could be described as an endomorph quite easily because they've got big round bellies and a lot of skin hanging. And so, any questions, comments about that?
No, that was super interesting. I mean, I'm a lot of that related to me. The fibromyalgia. What was the calcium on top of the knees? Was
Calcium. Well, what he's saying there is that calcium tends to deposit around your joints. And
arthritis?
why is that happening? What's going on when people develop osteoarthritis, and that's the most common form of arthritis, you have instability taking place around the joints and the muscles that surround the joints. And basically what he's saying here is you're getting atrophy of your muscles in your lower limbs due to the excess cortisol. Cortisol is what wakes us up in the morning. When we go to sleep at night and it gets dark, we produce melatonin. And that helps relax us, and that's what helps us go to sleep. That's why melatonin is being given a lot to people to help them go to sleep, which I don't recommend because then your body stops producing it or lowers it. I mean, we've done podcasts in the past on melatonin. Go look those up if you want more detail or Google it. Point being, cortisol raises naturally in the morning when it becomes light outside. Part of what wakes you up and gets you going in the morning. Well, another function of cortisol is when you eat food and you eat more calories than you're burning, it takes those calories and part of the process of storing them as fat in your body. Well, guess what? If you have an overactive adrenal gland and your adrenal glands aren't functioning properly, your adrenal gland, by the way, sits on top of your kidneys and releases those hormones partially to help kidney function and moderate function into your brain and with your hypothalamus, pituitary gland, etc. Many things involved there. But if you have excess production of cortisol, a lot of cortisol in your body is telling your body to store fat. So guess what? If you haven't had the calories to store the fat, if you're not eating enough calories to use up the cortisol and storing of fat, the cortisol still is present. Well, the cortisol is telling your body to store fat. Well, so guess what? It goes to your muscles and starts depleting, degrading, or basically breaking down your protein because it's telling the body to store fat. So by having excess cortisol, you're telling the body to store fat. The muscles themselves are getting smaller because of that, because they're breaking down. Guess what? Your muscles then become weaker, and then that weakening of the muscle causes instability of the joints. Well, the body will lay down calcium because that's what your bones are made of. Because of the instability, it tells the body, based on where the pressure is in a joint, to lay down more calcium because it wants to stabilize the joint. It's getting kind of detailed here. But so it starts laying the protein, more calcium down in the joint itself, which leads to excess production of calcium in the joint, which causes dysfunction of the joint, and then that laying down of that calcium is called osteoarthritis. And you begin to see little, what are called osteophytes, or little outgrowths of calcium. It happens all over the body, very common in the neck, very common in the low back, in the hips, in the knees. That's why so many hip and knee replacements.
Wow. That's great. Okay.
Let's go on to the next one. This may be two podcasts
Yeah.
as well. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's get through thyroid body type, and then we'll save the last two for next time. Thyroid body type. This body type has weight all over, hair loss, loose skin, and outside eyebrows falling out. So these
Wait,
obviously
say those
extreme.
again.
Okay.
Weight
Didn't
all over, hair loss.
Let's go through the whole list. We didn't actually get through the whole list. There's several things. This body type has weight all over, hair loss, loose skin, outside eyebrows falling out. So on the outside edges of your eyebrows, you start losing the eyebrow hairs. Dry skin, thinning of the hair, crave alcohol, bread, pancakes, waffles, and crackers. There's that list. Let's see. If you have been diagnosed with a thyroid problem and the doctor gives you thyroid hormones and you don't get better or lose weight, that's a secondary problem. If you are diagnosed with a problem and the doctor gives you something for it, you should get better. So he's basically saying there's more going on if the medication doesn't work. A primary thyroid condition can come from too much estrogen, heavy periods, the environment, which is what you had issues with, lack of digestive gallbladder release. So your gallbladder releases things like lipase and other substances which digest your proteins and your fats. So if you're not getting those fats released from your gallbladder, you're not digesting your proteins and fats, that can lead to a reduction of the function of your thyroid. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If your liver is not doing well and you do not have enough bile, then you can't convert T4 to T3. You won't have that converting activating hormones. Those hormones convert. So T4 and T3 are hormones, and one converts to the other. Bile is significant in that conversion process. Maybe a little too detailed for our listeners, but the point is that, as I already said, that is so important for the process and function of your thyroid, because you got to have that conversion for your liver and your gallbladder to function, which is so important for the function of your thyroid. If there's a problem there, you won't get the conversion, and then you don't fix that problem. The thyroid never gets fixed, essentially, is what he's saying. See, high estrogen causes conversion issues from the gallbladder, and high stress from the adrenal glands, which is considered a problem, an autoimmune problem, which is prevalent throughout our society today. Autoimmunity is big. It tends to all lead back to this same problem: function of your gut, function of your thyroid, function of your liver, on and on and on. Let's see, last comments here on what he says is, these are the things to ask your doctor. Thyroid issues can come from the adrenals. So adrenal problems can then lead to thyroid problems. We will stop there and we'll discuss in the next podcast. So basically we're going to do a part 4 of what body type are you, and in that one we will discuss liver body type and ovary body type, and then do a full recap of all we've discussed on all 4. Any questions, comments?
I wonder if you can be like more than one type.
Oh yes, definitely can be overlapping.
Okay. Yeah, that was interesting.
But key
Find
parts.
yourself?
What's that?
Do you find yourself either one of those, adrenal or thyroid?
Oh, I think I definitely have some mild adrenal issues,
Mm-hmm.
which I think tend to be common in the mesomorph as well, but more common in the endomorph. And more common later in life. These are things that tend to develop in people after years of eating poorly, not your body not getting all of its nutrients that it needs on a long-term basis. You know, this adrenal type body that he talks about, the fat hanging over your body. You know, people aren't born with that. You don't tend to see that in people in their 20s. Although more and more you're seeing it in kids. You can see some kids that are excessively overweight, and typically if you see that in a kid, you'll see it in the whole family. It's just that the whole family is obviously living off a lot of processed foods.
Yeah.
And so But it tends to be seen more in older women who tend to, once they hit their 40s and 50s, it's much more common and much more obvious because it takes, having excessive cortisol levels in your body for it to deplete. You see the skinny legs, but the big belly and the hanging fat tends to be more prevalent in an older person. And again, with the thyroid, though the thyroid body again tends to come on in older people, and once again, it's all about improper diet and years of improper diet, and then it takes priority. So in some people, the adrenal glands tend to be the biggest problem. In other people, the thyroid tends to shut down, but according to Dr. Berg and other scientific studies, we're finding that the adrenal glands dysfunction. So for instance, in someone who has the adrenal body, they probably got the thyroid problem as well. For someone who has a mild adrenal problem and lasting over years, could then eventually develop a thyroid issue, or they may have a thyroid issue. They could have both a mild thyroid as well as a mild adrenal issue as well. I would tend to believe that you would see probably more overall as the your thyroid body, which is more the overall overweight person. But you look for the combination of other symptoms like hair loss, loose skin, edge of the eyebrows, hairs falling out, dry skin, thinning of the hair. So, I notice as people get older, as men get older, my hair seems to me a little thinner than it used to be. So that's a signal to me that not only might I have some mild adrenal issues, but I also could have some mild thyroid issues as well. So doing these podcasts for both you and me, I think have been beneficial because it's keyed us into our own, is that maybe mild, but it's a signal that there's something there and should do some improvements as well.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny to hear all the different symptoms because it's like, oh, check, no, yes, no. I'm sure our listeners are doing the same thing.
Yeah, and this is a triage type perspective in the sense that, how bad am I? Do I have some of these symptoms? Yeah, maybe I have 10, 15 symptoms and I got 1 or 2 or 3. Well, that means I've got some mild stuff going on and maybe I need to consider making some improvements. If I got 8 out of the 10 or 15, then I know I'm at moderate levels and I really need to make some changes and make them quickly. If I've got them all or 90% of them, I'm in emergency mode and I really need to make some major changes and make them now and go see somebody because I'm on a real downward spiral.
Good information. Wow. Good job, Dr. Kell. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. And thanks for everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds great. Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.
I guess we won't see them, will we? But at least we'll talk to them. Okay.
Soon enough, we'll see them.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. For questions or comments, please email us at healthtalkwithdrkel@gmail.com. That's DRKELL@gmail.com. You'll find the lowest prices on standard process whole food supplements at holistichealth.standardprocess.com. As always, we recommend you seek nutritional advice from a qualified healthcare professional before starting a supplement program. And for natural and organic health and hygiene products, see our sponsor's website at oceanbaynaturals.com.
While we make every effort to broadcast correct information, we are still learning. We will double-check all facts, but realize that medicine is a constantly changing science and art. One doctor may have a different way of doing things from another. We are simply presenting our views on how to live a healthy lifestyle that will be as evidence-based as possible. We welcome any comments, suggestions, or corrections of errors. We take no money from drug or device companies. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others, including but not limited to patients that you are treating. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast. Under no circumstances shall Dr. Kell Fullerton or any guests or any contributors to the podcast or any employees, associates, or affiliates of Dr. Kell Fullerton be responsible for damages arising from use of this podcast. This blog should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including but not limited to establishing standard of care in a legal sense or as a basis of expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. Our website, blog, and podcasts are all HIPAA compliant. While you may give your email address to subscribe to the website posts or to post information on the website blog, we will never share your email address or contact information with any third parties without your explicit permission. The contents of Health Talk with Dr. Kell podcast and the show notes are all copyrighted. All blog posts, podcasts, and show notes that are distributed to the public for free can be redistributed via hard copy or electronic copy for free only if Health Talk with Dr. Kell is included as the acknowledged author within the actual media that is being redistributed. The Health Talk with Dr. Kell podcast is a production of the Orange Stack with executive producers Dr. Kell Fullerton and Eric Hammond and host Nikki Sterling.